Is that folk music that you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horse.
Don't hesitate. It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow.
Scene while waiting for parking space. I was waiting in my car for a parking space when a man in a dirty coat with dirty hair and a white face with swollen lips approached my driver's side window. "Hi," he said. "Hello." "You look lovely." "Thank you." "What's your name?" "Jessica." Do you have 65 cents? "No, but I have some cake." "Cake?" "Yeah, cake." "Never heard of it." "Well, you'll have to try it then." I handed him the bag, which contained 3 brown squares. "Those are called brownies," he said. "Oh, well then have some brownies." "Okay." He took the bag and slid it inside his coat. "Thank you," he said. "They're gluten-free." Meaning if you have a gluten intolerance, they won't make you sick." "You're nice." "Thank you. So are you." "I think I have a 65 cents intolerance." "Yes," I said. "I can see that." "Well, maybe you should ask for 75 cents instead." I never thought of that. It'll save people time, and then they can just give you 3/4. Or better yet, ask for $1. "That's a good idea. You're nice to think of that." "Thank you. What's your name again?" "Jessica." "Yeah, Jessica. Well, you have a good day, Jessica." "You too." The end.
Hurrah.
Thank you, Ralph.
The show is Horses Sing None of It. My name is Ralph Litwin, and our guest today is a very talented young woman by the name of Jessica Kane.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, Ralph. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
I first heard you on WFMU on Irwin's show.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He's featured your pieces quite frequently.
He has. He's been really wonderful to invite me on his show. We always have fun together on his show. So.
So you were going to tell us a little bit about that story?
Oh, well, basically what I like to write about are just my everyday adventures, because every day there's always something interesting that happens, and instead of them being forgotten, I like to collect them. Like some people collect stamps. I collect my word photographs of my daily adventures. So I have tons and tons of them, so that was a recent one.
Very amusing.
Thank you, Ralph.
And you are also a sculptress?
Yes, I sculpt. I guess I do a bunch of different stuff. I probably am trying to compensate for not getting enough attention as a younger person, so I do lots of different stuff. I haven't been sculpting so much lately because it's really messy, and I don't like to clean up after all the clay and the paint. And writing in my journal is much easier. It's just, all you need are 2 tools, sometimes 1 if it's just the laptop, so. It saves time, and you don't have to get clay under your fingernails.
But people who want to see some examples of your sculpture can go to your website.
Yes, I have a lot of my sculptures on my website. This is correct. Should I say the website?
Sure.
It's www.jessicakane.com.
They're very amusing and whimsical.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And you're also a playwright.
Yes, right now, my latest project is a radio play. It's called Two Sizes Too Small, and it's being produced at the Club at La Mama on East 4th Street. And it's a play about an investment banker who wakes up in the morning one day to start his normal regular day, and all of his shoes have mysteriously shrunk 2 sizes too small. And he doesn't know what to do about it, and he can't go to work barefoot. So his mother tries to save the day, and she goes out to try to find him some bigger shoes, but even those are too small. And in the midst of her running around trying to save the day, she meets a doctor who specializes in shoe and foot dysfunction. And he comes over to the house and prescribes some medication, but there's really terrible side effects. And if I tell more, it'll probably give it away. So
Leave some mystery for people.
Leave some mystery. We're going to be recording it. Right now it's a staged radio play, but we'll be recording it. It'll be on my website in about 6 months or so.
Great.
Thank you.
Would you like to read us another story?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you. This story is, oops, that was my gum from before. I'll get that left after we're done. This one is a story, I have this cat, his name is Sealips, Sealips, and I'm not able to tell you really how he got that name because it's not appropriate for television. But this is about Sealips's. He had something wrong with his penis. He wasn't able to urinate. He had a blockage, and it was a real huge drama. So I wrote a little story about it. It's called Sealips's Penis. I thought Sealips was over the hill with this thing, but now I'm not so sure. He woke me up at 3 a.m. shrieking. It was awful. Never have I heard him make these noises. It was like he was screaming, "Fire! Fire!" I picked him up in a hurry and stroked his back, trying to calm him, to ease his discomfort. After a couple agonizing minutes, he stopped making that noise. But then he started doing this thing that he's been doing on and off for the past 2 weeks. He goes into his litter box, squats. His tail rattles like a snake, and you can tell he's pushing, but nothing's coming out. So he gets out of the litter box, and then the penis licking starts. His leg flies up in the air, and his little penis comes out of its fur coat, and he goes to town. I'm alone up here in the woods this week, taking care of Sealips, who's got this urological disorder. Chris, my husband, is down in the city working, building this art gallery space in some abandoned warehouse. I was supposed to be with Chris because I hate being up here alone in the woods. Too many nighttime visions of being assaulted by hungry hillbillies. But here I am, taking care of Sealips's penis problem. This past 2 weeks, my life has been all about Sealips's penis. I can't tell you how many times I've referred to it. Chris, too. At first, we'd snicker at the word. Chris even blushed when he told the vet in a deadpan how she'd had to massage it. But that was last week. Now it's nothing new. So anyhow, last night, the latest in this saga of Sealips's penis, I figured the best thing would be to give him some food. So I scooped out a dollop of the smelly Science Diet prescription wet food, cracked the spoon against the edge of the bowl till it plopped down, poured some distilled water on top of it just in case our well water has been the cause of all this hell, and I lifted Sealips up onto the table and made very dramatic yum, noises. Sealips, unlike my human companions, doesn't mind being coerced. Sealips trusts that I know what's best for him. So he took a couple licks of his food and I was pleased, but then he went back to his penis. Damn it. Then I started figuring out how this was probably all my fault. All day yesterday I'd been bragging about how Sealips was all better, what a fantastic nurse I was, and now this. Damn it, I said again, right when I had finally been able to resume being upset about my own life. Now, once again, the most pressing issue is returned to Sealip's genitals. I led him out onto the dining room table. I left him on the dining room table with his leg in the air, stepped over my deaf dog, Sir, who was snoring, and grabbed C-Lips's pain tonic from the refrigerator, this liver-flavored brown liquid stuff. I loaded up the syringe, pried C-Lips's head out of his crotch, and squirted it down his throat before he knew what happened. He stumbled a bit and started licking his lips instead of his penis, thank God. And this lasted until the meds kicked in, and then he was gone. C-Lips is very creepy on medication. He's had so much of them the past couple weeks. Really, since the anesthesia, he's not been as sharp as usual. The laser toy that he used to chase all over the place and growl at, now he hardly even notices. I hope it wears off. It makes me think they ruined him. Or maybe it was the rabies vaccination I had to get him the other week when he went in for his checkup. Or maybe it was the new food I switched him to. Oh, the amount of time I try to figure out how exactly I may have ruined lives. So anyhow, when C-Lips gets loopy, he starts to hallucinate. And his favorite place to do so is in his litter box. Not in his primary litter box, in his old litter box. Just in case he had any trauma from the original box, where all the trouble started, I got him a new one. Of course, I kept the old box, just in case his post-traumatic stress disorder was mine and not his. But he does prefer the new one. In fact, he only uses his old litter box when he's high on medication, to chase imaginary spiders. It's maddening. He'll pounce on something that isn't there, and granulated natural corn litter goes flying all over the freaking place. And then all the blood vessels in my body contract, and I feel like I'm going to explode. But he was giving his penis a break, so I let him go nuts. I popped a Xanax and stared at the ceiling and listened to this maniacal scratching and lunging for about 2 hours. Then I realized the Xanax wasn't kicking in, so I said, the hell with this. I went in the other room and saw this cat with these wild, red-around-the-rim eyes, his mouth covered in litter, and I said, show's over, kid. And I lifted him out, shook him off, and the dining room floor was looking like a chicken coop, and I plopped him down next to Sir, who was still snoring, and carried his little funhouse to the bathroom and locked it in there. But still, C-Lips didn't want to sleep. But since he had no litter box, he decided to spend the following 2 hours staring at the wall, which was almost as maddening. I kept watching him to see if he was going to start with his penis licking again, afraid I would have to throw him in his crate and drive an hour south to the hospital again. So I called the hospital to get some advice. The hospital where I've spent $2,100 in the last 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Someone I never talked with answered the phone. I told her what was going on, and she was not helpful. One of those people who likes to dominate the conversation by saying, you're more than welcome to come and bring him in, as if it were a private club, as if I needed her permission. She was the first person from that hospital that wasn't great. So I got off the phone fast, made a fire in the wood stove, went back in bed, and watched C-Lips staring at the wall some more, and thankfully the Xanax kicked in. Next thing I knew, it was 7 a.m., but C-Lips was still at it, staring at the freaking wall. I went over to talk with him. He was lucid, but real subdued. I gave him some more food, but he wasn't interested. I escorted him to this $80 kitty drinking fountain I bought the other day after reading it online. Still no interest. You're killing me, I told him. He stared at me, all glazed over. Then I thought of what the doctor said. If he keeps getting blocked up, we're going to have to remove his penis. Turn him into a girl. What a ruthless thing to say. Turn him into a girl? Not my little man. So I went back to thinking what to do, and that's when I grabbed the syringe, loaded it up with water, and shot it right down his freaking throat. Listen, you little jerk, if you don't start drinking, they're going to turn you into a girl. I said it lovingly, of course, and he swallowed it. Then I went to his litter box, took a pair of kitchen tongs, which are now used to hunt for piss clumps, and I'm raking through his corn litter looking for cat urine, and I find a clump, a little clump. C-Lips was watching me. I smiled and told him he was a wonderful, talented little man, and I realized the situation was not as urgent as I thought. He's peeing. He'll be okay. And that's when I knew I had to get out of the freaking house. My own sanity was waning. I had to get away from C-Lips's penis. So I drove an hour south to a place called Kohl's, where I've never been to before, to spend a $100 gift card that came in the mail yesterday from using my credit card too much. I figured I'd get myself a present. That makes me feel better sometimes. But once I was there, I didn't feel like getting myself a present. I felt too chapped, too damaged to receive gifts. So I bought Chris something instead. Maybe that would make me feel better. My mother called while I was kneeling on the carpet, going through all these pairs of jeans, looking for Chris's size, 38, 34. Very rare, apparently. I spoke with my neighbor about C-Lips, she said. Oh, yeah? My mother's neighbor is a woman who more than tithes her salary to pay for sickly, unwanted cats. Shannon said you need to tie Seelips's front paws together and dip him into a basin of Epsom salt. Mother, I said, I really don't imagine that would go over very well. That's what I told Shannon, but Shannon said that was just too freaking bad. We hung up and I grabbed a lovely fall-colored scarf for myself on the way to the cashier. What the hell? And I chuckled, thinking of Seelips dipped in a basin. And then I caught a glance at myself in a store mirror and shuddered. I looked like I'm not having enough fun. Then on the way home, I was almost moved to tears, me whose heart has been zipped in a down jacket for about 2 weeks. What I saw was a giant group of birds flying all over the place in a jumble, I assumed headed south. That's about the extent of my migratory knowledge of birds. But then, right before my eyes, all of them, without any resistance, maneuvered together to form this lovely giant letter V. I found it touching watching them head somewhere all together like that. How I'd like to be effortless like that inside a community supporting me. Then I passed someone with a Vermont license plate that said 12427, and I wondered if this was the date I would die. Always preoccupied with when I'm going to die, I am. And then I got bored with my thoughts and realized I still had 45 minutes before I'd get home to the woods. And I sat inside myself with that horrible discomfort that I had to drive all the way home before I'd actually get there. So I breathed from my belly and tried to relax like those birds. Everything around me lately is so stopped up, unwilling to flow. And then I arrived home, and Seelips wasn't bleeding out like I had feared, and in a dark recess of my mind secretly hoped. The same dark recess that wishes everyone would just die so I wouldn't have to worry about them anymore, so that they could all just exist as fond memories that I could be moved by. And the vet called me back and said she didn't like how Seelips sounded one bit. She asked if I knew how to feel his bladder, and I didn't. So she coached me how to reach behind his hind legs with both of my hands until my fingers touched. Can you feel what size it is? Maybe a little bigger than a cherry? Okay, that's good. Not to worry. But Seelips seemed to enjoy the massage, so I kept doing it while the doctor was talking. He's sure been getting a lot of action down there, I said lately. The doctor skipped over that one, kept on talking. But after I stopped the massage, Seelips casually walked over to his litter box, squatted down, and I heard a whizzing noise. And you would have thought I'd won a scratch-off lottery ticket the way I rejoiced. He's peeing, I said into the phone. He's peeing. The doctor sounded glad in that way when someone gives you a birthday gift you don't like, but I hardly cared. Keep an eye on him, she said. That's all I have been doing. If he starts shrieking again, you'll have to bring him in. I thanked her for her help, and I started to say, well, I hope I won't have to see you later, but she'd already hung up, and then so did I. And now I'm sitting outside on this beautiful day. The autumn never did reach orgasm. It went from green to yellow to orange, and then forced itself to a dark orange, but never quite hit red. It's still lovely, though, and the air is crisp, the kind you want to breathe in, the kind of day that almost makes me feel like I deserve to be happy. The end. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ralph. That was a little longer than I thought it was. If I had been paying more attention, I would have read a shorter one.
No, it's fine.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you have collected these stories on CDs.
Yes, I have a spoken word collection of a year's worth of daily adventures. And a lot of them have to do with my mother because I have one of the most interesting mothers of anybody, I bet. She has so many adventures, and I often just am transcribing our conversations when we talk. So a lot of the chapters in my spoken word collection are just transcribed conversations with my mother. And I like to imitate her voice because she's got a funny way of speaking.
Do you have one of those to share with us today?
Unfortunately, all the ones that my mother are in have terrible words in them because she speaks like a prisoner. She has a lot of passion and she uses colorful language. I did have one funny conversation with her that I could use just, I could bleep them out. A conversation that's really short of her reaction to my play.
Okay. I'm game.
But I can't. It's over there. I would have to run over and get it. Never mind. I could summarize it. Basically, she was telling me that I need to publicize myself, and I'm not a very good publicist. And she was advising me that I should go to other people's performances and tap dance, do a few bucks and wings, and wear a name tag that says Jessica Kane, 2 sizes too small. But the way she says it is funny.
The name of your CD collection is?
It's called Straining to Parallel Park in an Empty Field. A series of interruptions on the way to getting somewhere. Yeah.
You have such an amusing way of phrasing your stories.
Oh, well, thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much.
And your observations are very interesting.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's nice to hear.
Your play got a really great review from Jack Hanley, the NewYorkTheater.com review.
Yeah, I was really excited about that. It's always nice when someone gets any artist, when someone gets the work and says something nice about it. I was so happy. Yeah, I guess the play really, it's about, because I often have battled with just feeling restless and that feeling where I want to escape my life, but really there's not so many places to escape to, I realize. So it's, the play is all about, it's an absurd play when his shoes shrink, but it's really about freedom and what happens when your status quo is ripped away from you, so you have no choice but to just deal with the circumstances right where you are. And so it's about if there's any way to find a new kind of happily ever after in that, even if the whole world is saying that you're in hell. So I guess I wrote it for myself so I'd feel better.
You're also a songwriter?
Yeah, I write songs. I write lyrics and melodies and get. I have a friend of mine who arranges my songs, and then we get together and record them. I'm just about to go record another record of songs next month, so I'm excited about that. And that record will be called "See You in Hell." I mean, hey, how you doing? Because I like how I always can juggle 2 parts of my personality at the same time. You know, the one that loves everybody and the one that wishes I'd never see anybody ever again. So I've been trying to practice being dexterous enough to be able to hold both of those at the same time. So a lot of the songs, I guess, are about subtly about that sort of juggling.
Also on your website are some interesting video clips. What's the origin of those?
Well, I used to do animation, so there's some animation stuff back when I was really not very good at working with real people, because my original love was playwriting and radio plays, and I found it really difficult to communicate with real people, so I thought I'd make my own people out of clay, and that maybe that would be easier. But then I found out that clay people are really difficult to work with, more so than real flesh people, because they take a really long time to speak. You have to spend a whole day with them to get them to say a sentence, really. And then the other video, I think I have this character that I like to do. His name is Chris Watinsky, and he's this guy, and he's a volunteer cab assist, and he likes to find people cabs, and he's really passionate about helping the cabs find the people and the people find the cabs, but nobody really appreciates his services. And it's just this kind of dormant part of my personality that I can't really get away with being him very often because I would confuse people. But every once in a while I put on a beard and I get to be Chris Watinsky. It's kind of based on my father-in-law because he's this big guy with a beard and he's got a thick Brooklyn accent, and I sometimes wish I could be him. So that's what I do. That's the videos on the website.
Great. Well, let's plug your website one more time, jessicakane.com.
JessicaKane.com, and the play website, should I say that one too?
Sure.
It's 2sizestosmall.com. Yeah, and that's all the...
Why don't you give us another story?
Okay, this one's really short. It's about my very first HIV test. Bear with me for a minute while I find page 15. Here it is. Okay. My first HIV test. I remember being in a cafe one night. I was about 18 and my best friend Elisa was talking about this guy Ben. The same Ben I'd been naked with just the month before. The Ben who smoked Lucky Strikes and had a sexy smile and blonde hair and was apparently getting a PhD in philosophy. The Ben who invited me back to his apartment to show me his thesis, but instead of showing me his thesis, he leaned his face toward mine with a mouth that kept opening wider and wider, a mouth that smelled like Tom's of Maine fennel toothpaste that almost made me gag. The Ben who I continued to kiss even though I didn't want to, and the Ben that I then got naked with even though I also didn't want to. But he wanted to, which meant he wanted me, and how often did that happen? So Elisa was talking about this Ben and how she would never touch him with a 10-foot pole because it was a heroin addict and probably had HIV. And all of a sudden I felt sick. "What's the matter?" she asked. "Nothing," I lied. "You didn't." "Of course not," I said. I was terrified to get an HIV test, so instead I decided to see a palm reader. I figured if she told me my lifeline was long enough that I probably didn't have HIV. And sure enough, this enormous-breasted woman on Venice Beach told me I would live at least until 65, so that gave me some peace for a while, until I noticed that my lifeline was shrinking. I remember I was with my great-uncle Sonny in Home Depot when I first noticed this. He was looking for toilets, and I was stuck with him on this errand. I remember I was walking through the aisles, measuring my lifeline with my fingers, when I ran it right into one of those concrete beams that hold the ceiling up. I was pretty humiliated, but I think that knocked some sense into me. Ridiculous to substitute palm reading for an HIV test. When I finally told Elisa what was going on, she shook her head at me like I was nuts.